Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Andrew Moran, Kelly Ballard, Graham Noble, and Dave Patterson, and this is the Conservative 5, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. On today's episode, we failed our patience test. It's a delicious irony for progressives on gun control as we discuss in Gun Grabber Giveaway. We'll talk about those aghast liberals experiencing heart-wrenching betrayal in Is There Enough Hate to Go Around? And then pivot to the biggest party house in the nation, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Toss in a bout of Just for Fun, Volume 37, and test your trivia knowledge right along with our panelists. All this and more coming up in this edition of the Conservative 5. Illinois state legislators have passed House Bill 3751 and now wait on Governor J.B. Pritzker to sign it or veto. If signed into law, it would be legal for undocumented aliens to apply for law enforcement jobs, the kind you need a gun to perform. For some unexplained reason, Pritzker is sitting on the darn thing as if he's waiting for it to hatch. I need to start with the national security guru, Dave Patterson, who scares us daily here at Liberty Nation. Should we be afraid of this?
Well, Sarah, I think this is just another attempt, to break down our institutions. Defund the police didn't work. Now they want to give illegal aliens guns to fill the gaps in the police departments they wanted to defund. To protect whom? Are we really going to trust a policeman whose first introduction to America is to break our laws? Well, there's no better example, actually, if you think about it, of the inmates being given the run of the asylum. I think when you really look at this, the statistics from the Center for Immigration Studies tells the story of the DACA program itself, which gave benefits to illegal aliens with criminal records. Of the current 800,000 or so DACA beneficiaries, 54,000 have criminal records before the DACA application, and yet they were still approved. 17,000 of them had criminal records and multiple arrests. 13% of those, nearly 8,000 illegals with prior arrests, were rearrested for another crime once in the US. And these crimes are not trivial. Assault on minors, kidnapping, human trafficking, child pornography, and murder. These are initiatives by progressives who, quite frankly, care nothing about the values that most Americans hold dear.
Well, Graham, didn't you say something this week about what a delicious irony that we've got gun grabbers giving guns to criminals? I'm not sure how you put it.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of ironies there. One of them Dave pointed out, which is simply the irony of the people who actually broke the law. It was the very first thing they did when they entered this country, is they broke the law, and now they're getting law enforcement credentials. I mean, how much credibility does that give to the law enforcement community in a place where it's going to allow? And then, of course, if you're an illegal immigrant, you are not supposed to be in possession of a firearm. So that's, on the one hand, progressives are all about stricter and stricter gun laws, because obviously, as we all know, really, their ultimate goal is to eliminate privately owned guns from America altogether. I don't think they'll ever achieve that, and I hope not. But that's their ultimate goal. And now what are they doing? Is they are actually giving guns to a group of people who by law are not supposed to have guns. So yeah, the insanity continues.
Gotta love the blue states and cities. And one of our best people in a blue state and city would be Miss Kelly Ballard. Kelly, has anybody done that in your neck of the woods? Are we looking at a bunch of undocumented people running around applying for police jobs and maybe carrying weapons and not speaking English?
Not that I've heard of, but I've got a few points on this. In your story, you said, I forget who said it, but someone said that they only plan to give them guns as long as they're police officers, then take them away. So to me, that's ridiculous too. If you're trying to say that they're a legal citizen, that they can hold, a police officer position and have all these rights, then you're going to take it away once they don't have that job. That's confusing to me. Also,
Yeah, that was kind of a dumb thing.
yeah, it was. And then also, now DACA, the one there, I actually know quite a few growing up where I did in Central California. I don't blame the ones that were, brought here when they were children. Their parents brought them here. I don't believe they committed a crime. I believe that they should, if they have not been committing crimes, like Dave pointed out, how many have these records, that they should be fast tracked as a citizen because that's mostly what they've known. But I just don't understand.
What's the holdup with that? I mean, if they were brought here as children, why hasn't that process already been in place and they're 25 years old? Where is that coming from?
Yeah, my opinion is they should get a year to file papers. By the time they're 18, when they're considered an adult, they should, if they haven't already done so, they should have a year. If they haven't done that, then they're considered totally illegal and be deported. That's my opinion. That's what I think. But with the gun issue, you're going to defund, like we were talking about, you're going to defund the police, and now you need to bring in illegals, if you want to call them illegals, to monitor, like Dave said, like a prison thing. They're going to have, most of them, human nature, are going to have sympathy for other illegals caught in the country, and you think they're really going to police them and enforce it. So I don't think it's a good idea.
I don't understand any of this, obviously, but Andrew, your country does not like guns. So do you guys just walk around with billy clubs, or do you actually have armed police force in certain situations?
Well, actually, in Toronto, the police force accounts for most of the budget. They get about $1 billion a year from taxpayers. But who cares about Canada right now? But in the United States, I think Matt Walsh, he should produce a new documentary called "What is a U.S. Citizen?" Because at this stage, all these blue states and blue cities are diluting what it means to be a U.S. citizen. These illegals can get free money, get driver's license. Now they can become police officers. It's astounding to me. And on this program, whenever we talk about illegal immigration, myself or James Fight, or I think Graham even mentions it too, whereby incentives matter. If I live in South America and I hear news that, oh, wait a minute, if I go to Illinois, I can become a police officer, I can carry a gun. Of course, I'm going to trek and go to the United States and say, hey, look, I'm a cop. I'm making all this money. I get a free gun. It's baffling to me what the heck is going on in many of these blue run areas.
Isn't there a $25,000
signing bonus? A $25,000.
So there we go. Right away, I'm already. I cross the border. I get into Illinois. I get $25,000. It's amazing to me. It's just what is in the mind of a lot of these Democrat.
I don't know. Andrew, you could just walk across the border and be in Chicago and go be a cop.
My brother lives in Chicago, so and he's a Bernie bro, and he loves leftism. So I can only imagine what he thinks of this policy.
But the truth is, and this is sad, but it is a fact, Andrew. If you tried that, the mere fact that you are white from Canada, you'd have no chance. Like, you applied to the police over there, they'd be like, "No, I don't think."
I'll just pull a Trudeau and put on some brown makeup on and pretend I'm
yeah.
Well, I mean, if we defund the police,
yeah, like Trudeau, yeah.
And if we defund the police, how are we going to fund these guys? I mean, it's the equation doesn't make sense, and I'm no math expert. Ask Tim Donner, but I'm no math expert.
Perhaps
we all know this
because they think that these people came from poor South and Central American countries, that they can, maybe pay them like $20 a week to be a police officer or something.
Well, defunding the police wasn't about their budget. It was about listening to all these people during the riots and stuff. So they're just taking the money that they got rid of all their police officers, and they're going to give it to the DACA or illegals. So
yeah, you're right, Kelly. Money. I mean, defunding the police was never about saving money or cutting budgets. It was literally about reducing the effectiveness of law
Mhm.
enforcement
So
agencies.
punitive.
Yes.
Defund the
Yeah,
police.
it
is
was.
simply
It was
just
punitive. Yep.
I think in the end, it comes down to that the people who have these crackerjack ideas never have to suffer the consequences of what they propose.
Exactly, because these politicians and these elite, they all have their armed security guards. They're well protected, live in these gated communities. Of course, they don't deal with the consequences.
Well, guys, you know what? You may not know. It's just a matter of time. This Illinois legislature, doesn't need Pritzker's approval. They can override a veto with their progressive Democrat supermajority. So we'll let you know how this all turns out. Thanks, panel. Progressives. Those peace, love, and harmony folks are spitting mad. First, it was the Muslims in one Michigan town banning pride flags. Imagine that. And then it was Guy Fieri. During an event in Las Vegas, Fieri was seen shaking Donald Trump's hand. Another slap in the face for the whiniest, loudest keyboard warriors out there. It appears progressives need to reevaluate their friend criteria. And Graham, is there enough hate to go around, or are they running out of steam on their whole actions and activities?
Well, I think that they've always got plenty of hate to go around. Their hate seems limitless for anybody who doesn't fit into their, who doesn't meet the credentials for being woke, or doesn't agree with their politics. They got plenty of hate, but I think I think they may have set themselves on the road to their own doom, and I'll explain that in a minute. But basically, briefly, the situation with the city of Hamtramck, Michigan. I think I pronounced that properly. It's one of the hardest names of any city to pronounce.
Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt that pronunciation. I was going to say that.
But the progressives were delighted when the people of that city voted in a Muslim mayor and a Muslim majority council. And, while there's nothing wrong with that at all, one thing the progressives did not reckon with, because, Muslims are one of their favorite, kind of groups of people that they love to pretend they're protecting and looking out for. But now they've discovered, and they should have known this all along, is that the majority of Muslims, particularly devout Muslims, are not down with the whole LGBTQ thing. They're not down with it. They frown upon homosexuality. They don't believe in this ridiculous concept of gender fluidity. They're not into all of that. So basically, the council ousted commissioners who put up LGBTQ flags, and they took the flags down. And so now the progressives are in a bit of a quandary because they can't really get too mean and nasty with the people up there in Hamtramck, because if they do, they're breaking one of their own rules, which is that you cannot engage in Islamophobia. And that's the problem here. The progressives are basically, they've added more and more and more rules to this whole woke ideology thing that it's hard for them to find anyone who doesn't break any of those rules. They've totally painted themselves into a corner. Now with Fieri, celebrity chef and self-proclaimed mayor of Flavortown, this was a guy who's kind of apolitical. He doesn't make political statements. And, it's not actually about, we don't even know if Fieri is politically on the same page as Donald Trump. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that he had the nerve to treat Donald Trump like a human being. He actually engaged in what seems to be like a friendly conversation with him.
Well, Trump eats, he probably is a patron of some of those
But progressives view him as something.
Diners and drive-ins or something.
Yeah, but progressives view Trump as someone less than human. He is not deserving of any respect, any reasonable or fair treatment whatsoever. So, so the left was furious with this chef when they discovered that he actually at least somewhat likes Donald Trump. But here's the good thing. They're calling for a boycott now of anything to do with Guy Fieri. They're talking about he's dead to me now. They want to boycott the Food Network. What I'm hoping is that they expand this Fieri storm to the point where they boycott the restaurant industry altogether. And then they decide that that's not good enough, and they boycott food. And within a few weeks after that, they would have boycotted themselves out of existence. And personally, I'd be perfectly fine with that.
So I want to just make a clarification because I didn't know this and I had to look it up. Flavortown is not a place. It is a mindset. So he is the mayor of his own mindset. I'm just letting you all know that.
He's a legend in his own lunchtime, basically. Flavortown is a concept. Yes.
Well, what else does anybody have to say about this? You guys are awfully quiet back there.
So two things. I'll first go on the Fieri part. There's this guy named Jack White. He's some musician apparently, and he wrote this op-ed saying how people like Guy Fieri and Mel Gibson and Mark Wahlberg, they can't normalize Donald Trump, and apparently that's a cardinal sin. Now, when it comes to the Muslim thing, I think the Muslim one is the most fascinating story happening this one of the most fascinating stories happening this year. Up here, let's go to Canada here. There was a story coming out of Calgary or Edmonton, and there was a school principal talking to this Muslim family, and this Muslim family raised concerns about the whole LGBT nonsense and the drag queen story time. And this principal or teacher actually said to this Muslim family, well, if you don't like these LGBT values, then you just go back to where you came from. And she actually said that. Now, if a conservative said that years ago when the Muslims were the main were at the top of the victimhood pyramid, they would be so racist and Islamophobic. So I find this alliance between Christians and Muslims or conservative Muslims really fascinating that's occurring this year. And, hopefully that's going to lead to change, but within these government-run schools. But that remains to be seen.
I would assume, and again, assume that most religious sects, S-E-C-T, they all kind of disavow LGBTQ plus and all of that kind of stuff. So, maybe I'm way off point here, but Dave, straighten me out, will you?
Well, I think something that we've not talked about, and that's, I think, at the root of all of this is this conflation of assimilation versus multiculturalism. Britain has a very difficult problem with this because they adopted multiculturalism, which means that you have various nationalities that are in their own cantonments and don't come out, except for, food, Graham. But that's wrong. We don't have multiculturalism in the United States. We have assimilation. You come to the United States and you're assimilated into the society, into the communities. But it's interesting now that the multiculturalism has brought about the sanity of looking at behaviors and saying you can't have flags that represent behaviors. And people of common sense are rallying around that.
Well, I don't know about the Muslims rallying around it, but I was reading headlines on this subject, on this specific, Michigan Muslim group, and the headlines were, we feel betrayed, or it's a slap in the face, and it's like, maybe get to know who these people are before you lump all your strategies into one Islamophobic basket, because now you've got people in power that can snub their nose at what you want to do, and I think it is the most ridiculous show of not knowing what the progressive is all about. Kelly, help me here.
Well, I can't remember his name, but from the council, he was saying that he represented the majority of the people of that town. The majority of the people did not want pride flags on public buildings. America is supposed to be majority rules, not minority, not the loudest crier or screamer or you've triggered me. It's majority rules. That's how it's supposed to be. So in my opinion, they did the right thing. The majority of the town did not approve of pride flags on government buildings. So take them down. I don't think it's the right thing anyways, but okay, that's a whole different ball of wax to not get into right now. But
well, what kind of flag should we be flying, Andrew?
Don't tread on me. That flag should be hung across the nation everywhere. But also, Sarah, to your original question about religious sects. Now, I see all over Twitter all these different pastors and priests saying, "Oh, my God is a non-binary God, and my God is gender," and all this kooky talk. Now, this I had this conversation with my wife. My wife is a devout Catholic, and there's so much Catholics now who support LGBT. We are in our Catholic district school board in this province. There's been a huge discussion of, should you raise the pride flag? And many schools are doing that, saying we have to accept and we have to love and all that nonsense. So there is such a religious debate occurring throughout the North America of whether or not religious institutions should be accepting and welcoming of LGBT. You guys are religious. I'm not. So perhaps you guys can answer that.
I don't know. I just want to see an American flag flown on all government buildings. We are America. That's our pride flag, and that's the way it should be. But Graham's got the last word, I think.
I would say one thing, leading on from a point that you just mentioned, Andrew. It's not. You see, here's the thing about progressives. It's not about tolerance. They don't want they don't want people to simply. It's not enough that you simply would say, okay, the LGBTQ people, they can do what they want. I don't mind. I don't necessarily approve of their lifestyles or choices, but it doesn't affect me, and they can do that. And I feel like that because the libertarian in me says that that's fine. You do what you want, but that's not good enough for progressives. You can't merely just tolerate or accept. You have to support. You have to support. They want people. You've got to be actively supportive of the LGBT community. And anything less than that is simply not good enough.
It's like that Seinfeld episode when Kramer, he goes to the AIDS march walk and the woman says, "You must wear the ribbon." But we talk about, I'm supporting this fight against AIDS, but you must wear the ribbon.
That's a reflection of today's reality. Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate. And I doubt anyone on this panel is going to run out and get a coexist bumper sticker. Thanks for tuning in, guys and gals. We'll see you next time. Cocaine found at the White House. The news spread like a slow burning grass fire, quick to douse the press inquiries. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre assured us the entire First family was out that entire weekend. But were they? Really? It was all about the press pool schedule that upended Karine's cover for the Biden bunch. Right there in the official paperwork, quote, Biden gave remarks in the Roosevelt Room that afternoon and didn't depart the White House for Camp David until 6:34 p.m., along with First Lady Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, and Hunter Biden's son, Beau Biden, end quote. Well, that was just the opposite of what was being said by Karine, wasn't it? Oh, Kelly, what do you make of what has to be a mix-up? It has to be a mix-up, right?
Well, maybe she's reading whoever writes the prompts for Joe Biden, or maybe they time traveled, or they got the time zones confused. I don't know. There's all over the internet, there's a list of lies by the press secretary, like where she said that since Joe Biden's taken office, illegal immigration has dropped 90%. And then they qualified it and said, well, that's only just from 4 different countries. But today, the Secret Service held not a press conference, but a meeting. And they just announced that they don't know who done it. And they're not going to find out who done it. But maybe something needs to be done about security. So I don't know. I think that this administration is really concentrated on telling little white lies or stepping out of it and whatever works at the moment. So
I don't know how the Secret Service can claim they don't know. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, they're elite, and yet they don't know. They can't track it down. They don't know. And I know one thing, Graham's going to go, hey, I need to say something right now because he's chomping at the bit. Go ahead, Graham.
Well, I got way too much to say about this. I mean, it's ridiculous, and for starters, for what Karine Jean-Pierre said about that, I snort at that. I do. I think that was a little cocaine joke there, by the way. None of you got that.
I got the pun.
But anyway, no, I mean, it is obvious. We all know who brought that cocaine into the White House, because he is the same guy who once returned a rental car that had cocaine in it, who once left his laptop at a Delaware repair shop, and that laptop had pictures of him in it doing cocaine. And I think there's been one or two other incidents where he's just kind of like left, cocaine just like lying around in different places. So we all know very well who left the cocaine in the White House. And this is ridiculous. I don't want to do the whataboutism thing but let's face it, if Trump was still in the White House and they found cocaine, they would be screaming, for his head on a plate. And this is ridiculous. I've got to kind of back off a little bit of this, because I've got about 1,000 cocaine related jokes lined up in my head, and I can't. I can't just take up the whole segment with those.
Well, okay, I have a weird question, and maybe just this is open for everybody, but somebody as Hunter Biden, who has the worst reputation on the planet of being clean and sober, how does he? Who's his supplier? And why won't they tell on him? I mean, I don't understand how anybody that high up the ladder with all the security and the cameras and the stuff gets away with doing this in the actual White House. Anybody want to jump on that one?
It's like a relay. They have several people. You go tell so-and-so to tell so-and-so to go to this person to get that, and then back again.
That seems even more dangerous, or somebody in this is going to be the weak link and want to be the whistleblower of the cocaine trail. I'm
concerned
know.
Kelly knows too much about the whole cocaine trail. I'm concerned.
I was like, God, Kelly, you know something.
Look where I live.
We're going to start calling you Cocaine Kelly.
But what's funny with Graham just mentioned though about if there was cocaine found in the Trump White House, yada yada yada. But what's funny is that if you watch some reaction a lot of the media and Twitterverse had whenever Trump would talk, Trump would always in between his sentences, breathe in really vociferously, go, and people would say, "Oh, see, that's evidence he's on cocaine. There's something must be up with Trump." And also one thing too, I don't know if I know a lot of people have seen that 6 second clip of Hunter Biden on the White House balcony during the 4th of July, but if you watch that whole thing, the whole time he's sweating, rubbing his hair, he's fidgeting, he keeps moving around, he touches, I think it was his sister there, and she didn't want to be touched by him. So it was very strange 6 minutes of the event. And also, if you look at Jill Biden's face, she seemed very unhappy with Hunter Biden's behavior.
I got to say that in that clip, Hunter Biden absolutely very much looks like someone who had just smoked crack. That's exactly what he looked like.
I don't know. I didn't see that clip, but doesn't that sound like withdrawal? Isn't that common for people to withdraw and be itchy and sweaty? And I don't know.
He's supposedly been sober for quite a while, so it wouldn't last that long. He wouldn't be suffering that severe withdrawals.
You know what? No, really is that really 5 years sobriety with this guy?
No.
No. Dave.
No, this is the kind of Hunter Biden is the kind of guy. Look, I don't know him personally, but I can just, from everything I've read about him and everything I've seen about him, it is, he is one of these people who, people like that don't change. Some people do change. Some people reform themselves completely. Hunter Biden is not one of those guys, because you can tell, even if you study the way he communicates, from the material from his laptop, which supposedly never existed, or it was a Russian thing or whatever. But anyway, if you actually examine the way he interacts with people in phone calls and in emails and in text messages, he's not a pleasant guy at all. And he obviously thinks that really believes that he is like something special and completely untouchable because he's Joe Biden's son. And, he's virtually threatened, Chinese officials about, basically, I want my money, give us our money. The guy he's not a self-reforming type of character. So I'm sorry, but I refuse to believe that he's clean or sober or off the drugs. And, anyone who tries to tell me that cocaine got into the White House by any other means than Hunter Biden bringing it in. I'm sorry. I just think you're
So, Dave,
living in fantasy world.
does Hunter live at the White House? Because a lot of people are asking that question. Does he have a residence anywhere else that anybody can point to? That he can get in a car and drive, or what?
Yes, the answer is yes. There are about 5 people who can move in and out of the White House without significant scrutiny. He's one of them. And as odious as he is, I think it speaks to a larger problem, and that is, let's face it, if you've been in the White House and if you've been in the West Wing, then you know that there are cameras that basically show every single person doing
Yes.
their offices. Everywhere you go, there is a security camera. And to suggest that the Secret Service is just baffled by this is just patently ludicrous. It would seem to me that the Secret Service, among all the agencies, would want to be on top of this, because it speaks to the security of the people's house. And if you can't secure the people's house, how does the administration secure the houses of the people?
Yeah.
With,
well, here's the one thing is
DACA,
when you start talking about drugs and stuff, here's the thing about the Secret Service. You know, they're the branch of, because of course the Secret Service deals with a lot of things other than the security detail for the president and the president's families. They they do a lot of other things, but that part of the Secret Service that deals with security, part of providing that security is not only protecting their, what they call their principal, which is the individual they are protecting. It's not only securing the physical safety of the principal, but it's also protecting the principal from, potential being compromised being vulnerable to bribery, being vulnerable to blackmail, all of that kind of stuff. That's all wrapped up in what the Secret Service does and how they provide security. So the fact that it is outrageous that there is drugs, a Class A drug in the White House, because if anyone in the White House close to the president is so into cocaine that they're actually leaving it lying around in the White House, then that is a very big problem for the president, because that opens people close to the president up to blackmail, and all kinds of things. So the Secret Service is not doing their job. They have simply failed to do their job unless they actually do find out who brought that cocaine into the White House.
From what I read, it was found in like a little cubby where everyone puts their cell phones and stuff when they're doing tours. If that's the case and they don't have cameras on that, anyone could put any kind of hazardous, a bomb or anything right there, and no one would even notice. And the security wouldn't be able to look back and see, well, who put that in that cubby? It doesn't make sense to me either.
It doesn't.
Well, I mean, Andrew, haven't they said 2 or 3 different places now? It started out somewhere in the library, or
I've read that too. I've read all these different
in the
places
library with the straw.
I've read that too. I've read where it could be all these different places. They can't get their story straight at all. So it baffles me. I think it was Kayleigh McEnany. She was on Fox and Friends, and I was surprised by her comments, because she was saying that it's inconceivable that it could be Hunter Biden, because there's no way the White House or the staff would let cocaine sit there for a 72-hour period. So even the conservatives, a lot of conservative personalities are being duped by what the administration is saying. But I was going to make one quick suggestion. If President Biden can do one thing, I think he should sit down with Hunter Biden and say, look, son, you need to have a straight line moving forward. I was trying to think of a cocaine pun the entire time, and that finally came to me.
I think if he had any sense, he'd sit down with Hunter Biden and say, look, son, you need to move to Australia and never come back and never speak to me again.
Lock him up. All right. Well, we did not solve the mystery, but we had fun sorting out the clues. Thanks for watching. Thanks, panel. Good luck, Hunter. Well, we are back, tan, rested, and ready to play hardball in what we call Just for Fun. It's all about trivia. And since Andrew Moran is on panel and usually wins, he's been relegated to host. Kelly and I need a shot at being less embarrassed by the boys. Over to you, Mr. Moran.
Well, I would take offense on behalf of James and Graham, because James won one of the constitutional ones, and then Graham won, I think, the last Just for Fun trivia. So I'll take offense on their behalf. But anyway, so let's get started here. I have 5 trivia questions. And what I want this time, however, I'm going to read the multiple choice and then answer the question. I want Kelly to have a shot, and I want Sarah to also get at least 1 point. That's my goal of this whole segment today. So anyway, so question number 1. Warren Harding's presidency was overshadowed by a scandal involving his extramarital affair. What was the nickname given to his mistress? Was it Clara Bow, Marion Davies, Louise Brooke, or Nan Britton?
What was the last one?
Nan Britton.
I don't know.
No
Last
idea.
one.
I'm going to go for the first name you threw out there.
No, so the answer is Nan Britton. Sarah gets 1 point. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I'm on the board. It's been months.
I thought Dave would know that one. I thought Dave would get that one. So, question number 2. I think he'll get this one. In May 2003, then President George W. Bush presented a televised speech on an aircraft carrier 6 weeks after the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq, and mounted a White House-produced Mission Accomplished banner in the background. What was the name of this aircraft carrier? Was it USS Calvin Coolidge, B, USS C, USS Abraham Lincoln, or D, USS John F. Kennedy?
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
I'm going to say Lincoln.
Correct, Graham. That is correct. The answer was USS Abraham Lincoln. So that's 1 point for Graham.
Dave missed that.
I know, I did.
And I was copying you, so I'm not sitting next to you in class.
Normally that works out.
Question number 3. In this, I think Dave will get this one too. Number 3, in this U.S. vice presidential debate, someone told his opponent, quote, "Senator, I served with Jack Kennedy. I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy." Was it A, George H.W. Bush, B, Dick Cheney, C, Kamala Harris, or D, Lloyd Benson?
D.
Dave gets it. 1-1-1. Oh, come on, Kelly. Come on. Kelly's going to get this one. I know it. Question number 4.
I just can't remember the guy's name, but I knew which was Quayle.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Question number 4. What presidential candidate proposed firing Big Bird during a presidential debate? Was it A, Barack Obama, B, Ron Paul, C, Mitt Romney, or D, Bob Dole?
Firing Big Bird. Oh my God.
I say Romney.
Un-American.
He's a stick in the mud.
Sarah gets it.
I would agree. I think it was
Mitt
Romney.
Romney, probably.
Sarah's got 2 points.
I had absolutely no idea, but he is like the
I knew, but I was trying to give
stick in the mud
Cocaine
kinda
Kelly
guy.
a chance to answer the question and get a point.
dog abuser. He's a dog abuser. Anyway,
Question number 5. What vice president uttered these famous words? One word sums up probably the responsibility of any vice president, and that one word is to be prepared. Was it A, Kamala Harris, B, Joe Biden, C, Gerald Ford, or D, Dan Quayle?
Ford.
I'm gonna say it's
I'm going
Biden.
to say it was Joe Biden.
Oh, sorry.
I think
It
Kamala
was.
Harris.
The answer is Dan Quayle. That was the answer. So the winner this week of
gosh.
presidential trivia is the lovely Sarah Cowgill.
Yay, Sarah.
I knew it. Yeah,
I'm gonna win something.
Come
when
on,
we get
Kelly,
to
though.
the
Kelly,
Ola.
you gotta get a point, man. Next, Kelly's
Well,
gonna win the next
ask
trivia.
something I know.
We're gonna have to go back to picking a number, and then reading that question and letting that person answer that question. Otherwise, I'm going to start losing again as soon as I'm the one running the quizzes and Andrew's out of the seat. And I don't want to lose anymore. Kind of liking this game today.
So an interesting bit of trivia on, since we're doing trivia, on Dan Quayle is that Dan Quayle didn't realize he was being considered for the vice presidency. And from what I understand, he was on a lake in an inner tube when they said, hey, listen, you need to get back here because they're talking about you as the vice presidential candidate. So had he been, I don't know if that's true or not, but I suspect that it is. And had he floated further down the river, we might not have had Dan Quayle as the vice president.
And probably the nation would have been smarter too.
They picked him because he was looking
the letter E at the end.
Yeah.
I don't understand a word you just said.
I mean, that was it. He was good looking and young and from a red state.
Potato, tomato, hey.
You say potato, I say potato.
Oh. Louis Armstrong got it. As opposed to like Trini Lopez.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, this week was better. I'm going to give it, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to put Andrew in charge so I can actually win something. But at least Kelly and I now have a strategy to get these boys out of our hair. Most of all, people, thanks for watching, and thank you, panel, for showing up, having some fun. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. I'm Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today. Free thinking, free speech, libertynation.com.